Welcome back. You're watching the Echo on TV, episode number 13. Well, his answer to We Are Change Ohio people was that he did support the Taliban and Mujahideen because he financed them basically, he and his administration, because they wanted to get rid of Soviets. That's a very interesting point here, because it's just like this. If there is a thief in your neighborhood who steals from you, let's send a murderer to get rid of the thief. That's what he did.
That's just a great idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Mr. Carter. But the other thing is that interfering with other countries' affairs, is that democratic to do that, actually, to just get involved in?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Interventionist policy.
Nose in other people's...
I'm being sarcastic, by the way.
No, I'm just... I know you are, but that's what actually Brzezinski did. Brzezinski, who is really Polish, and he still has his Polish accent, convinced Soviets that Afghanistan would be a threat. So he convinced the Soviets to invade Afghanistan because the threat was the Islamists, the fundamental Muslim groups who were just started doing things over there. So in one hand, he convinced the Soviets to invade Afghanistan, and on the other hand, he actually financed, trained Mujahideen and Taliban to fight with the evildoer Soviet Union. And that was very interesting. That's a great example of problem, reaction, and solution, financing both sides. I mean, I don't know what kind of other example we can come up with than this one. I mean, I know lots of people get really irritated whenever I say that, but I'm sorry, that's the reality of the situation. I'm so sorry. Like, well, you cannot digest this, but
there's a book by Fletcher Prouty, and he said that Stalin and what's his name, all the big guys from America, and they all got together and they said, well, we're going to have these wars, but we're not going to fight each other. We'll just fight these wars in third world countries. So we can make the guns, we can make the bombs, we can sell the bombs, we can make lots of money. And everybody knows, or our audience should probably know, that nobody makes more money than international bankers when there's a conflict.
Absolutely.
So,
because they finance both sides.
Right.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not, it's like not on the surface, how the money train goes.
It's not that black and white.
But you can follow it.
You could follow, I believe, Al Gore's family, the Arm and Hammer, have supplied the Russians, and same thing with Rockefeller. They've supplied
Bush family.
Yeah.
Prescott Bush and.
So it's one big circle, the circle.
Well, definitely you can look at any war. The War of 1812 was, well, just to give one example, was totally started by the bankers, and they funded both sides, and they got interest from both the Americans and the British.
Yes.
And you can go back to any war, the Civil War, finance the North and the South, and that's why Abraham Lincoln, by the way, started printing greenbacks, because he didn't want to pay 30% to the private bankers, and you know what they did?
Yeah, that killed him.
Exactly.
That killed him. Because
and there was just one thing I was thinking about Afghanistan, and General Hamid Gul was actually on Alex Jones talking about this, but I've thought about this before just from knowing a little bit about Middle Eastern history myself. You look at Napoleon Bonaparte, tried to go into Afghanistan, conquered it, and he didn't succeed. And then if you look at Stalin, I know that Afghanistan was attacked by Stalin. I mean, any time you have it seems like an empire that is at is getting ready to collapse. It's like they go into Afghanistan to die almost.
Yeah.
And Hamid Gul said this on Alex Jones, which I thought was so interesting because I have thought about that part of the world. And even if you look at the Cossack people, the northern Russian people, nobody's ever conquered them either.
Yeah.
Because they go into those mountains and they hide and they fight for their land, and they And General Hamid Gul also said something else that I have thought about, is that armies can conquer armies, but armies cannot conquer nations.
Yep.
And the Afghan people have such a spirit of, this is my heritage, this is my land, stay out, which, I mean, they definitely have a right to. I mean, so would I. Yeah. And so it's just amazing. And what made us think that we were going to go and actually conquer this ancient people, what made us think that we were actually going to get it done, in some ways we have.
They know, I'm sorry to say, they know that it's a war that has no victory, just like the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. That in
just
one
to
hand,
be sustained.
Yeah, exactly, sustained. Because if you remember in Vietnam War, I mean, if you remember, like, you're not born back then, but I'm just saying, like, while reading history, you'd realize that in one hand, they kind of limited the U.S. Army to do certain things, basically, to win the war. On the other hand, the war was going on. That's why it took so long.
I mean, in so many ways we do run the country, but ultimately you're right, there is going to be no end, because these people have a fighting spirit about them, and they're not going to just give up. I mean, they're just not going to let it go and say, oh, we're conquered now.
I think that I think Alexander the Great's battles ended there. I mean,
that before Napoleon,
empires
absolutely.
After empires have failed at the doorstep of Afghanistan, and it's like all these they sell these big countries to go in there like it's there's what are they going to do? They don't. I mean, this is the third world. The only modern weapons they've gotten from the first world.
Exactly.
So, but I think they should change Afghanistan to Eamstan, because it's Opiumistan, it's Petroleumistan for the pipelines.
It is one of the richest countries in the world.
The other now Lithiumistan, so it's got all these resources that people want
amazing resources
to fight over. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's I think we're there to break the back of America. And Hamid Gul also said, if we don't get out of there in the next 6 months or quit picking on Pakistan, killing wedding parties and stuff, that's just gonna, the beehive is getting more and more stirred up. Exactly. And whether those people really weren't at war with us, they will be, because there's too much collateral damage.
And it's our fault. It's totally our fault.
Yes.
Well, not the fault of the American people, because most of us don't even. But as far as at least our shadow government, it's
well, it is. But
we're helping the freedom fighters. Yes. So let's go wave some flags.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one more time, I just wanted to tell you that this is a special edition of the Echo, because our freedom fighters, the Cincinnati 911 people, actually are yelling at Jeb Bush in northern Kentucky. Good fight, people. Good fight. If you're watching me, thank you so much. We are here because we wanted to, because the show must go on. But at the same token, I'm going to cover the 9/11 tonight for them. I usually don't touch that topic because they're doing a great job on that. They're specialized in that, but I wanted to cover that tonight. So those of you who watch, who followed their programs, could watch something about that too. I just wanted to say the last thing that one of the truthers asked Ayatollah Carter, Jimmy Carter, was that what's your answer on bill number 7? And all of a sudden Jimmy had a hard of hearing 3 times. Too bad. Shame on you, Jimmy. But anyways, there is another clip. If you could roll that for us, Sam. It's about Brzezinski, and how he actually, you can see how he's encouraging Afghans to go and get back their lands and mosques and this and that, and the God be with you and stuff like that. You would see Brzezinski talking about that. So it should be the clip number 3. Please roll that for us.
U.S. National Security Advisor Brzezinski flew to Pakistan to set about rallying resistance. He wanted to arm the Mujahideen without revealing America's role. On the Afghan border near the Khyber Pass, he urged the soldiers of God to redouble their efforts.
We know of their deep belief in God, and we are confident that their struggle will succeed. That land over there is yours. You'll go back to it one day because your fight will prevail and you'll have your homes and your mosques back again because your cause is right and God is on your side.
The purpose of coordinating with the Pakistanis will be to make the Soviets bleed for as long as is possible.
You're watching The Echo on Channel 4. My name is Kiomar Skiani, The Echo Man. My Persian title would be Peshwak. But this program was dedicated to Ayatollah Jimmy Carter and his presence at the borders in LA for a book signing event. But while you were watching the Brzezinski, the main brain behind Jimmy Carter, Jennifer mentioned something about Brzezinski. Can you say that again for our audience at home?
Sure. Well, it wasn't really about Brzezinski. It was just that I also heard that the old men in Afghanistan have a saying that you see these mountains, we might be hungry, we might not have a lot to eat, but when people come in, invade us, they take what they have, they bring it here, and then they eventually get tired and leave. And that's one way we get our wealth, because people leave what they have in the mountains when they when they leave after attempting to conquer us or something of that nature.
True. Very true. And Iran, as the neighboring country, we know more than anyone else where is Afghanistan, because Afghanistan used to be a part of Iran too, but again, divide and conquer by British Empire. We got divided from that country. But it is very true, and not only it is very true in Afghanistan, but also, if you have noticed, like India got invaded by British Empire. British tried to do the same thing in Iran. They couldn't do it. They didn't admit that they lost, but they just would rather. But I'll tell you one thing. Honestly, I would rather to see my enemy in person than behind the closed doors. The moment that they're behind the closed doors, the moment they're invisible, I fear them more, because I don't know who I'm fighting with.
That's the way they want it.
Yeah.
That's why the sign of the Illuminati is the pyramid.
Yes.
And at the top of the pyramid
You
there's an eye, and you can't see them, but they can see you.
Yes, exactly. So I wish they would have just invaded Iran just like India, so we would know our situation.
You could revert them out of there.
Huh?
So you could revert them out of there.
Yeah, exactly. But they never really left Iran. They left their agents in Iran, actually in top positions. Lots of our prime ministers were Illuminati agents, and they were Freemasons, and everybody knows that. If you go and study the Iranian history, the modern history, you would know. And as a matter of fact, there is a family in Iran that they have been doing